Welcome to the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy's e-learning program. My name is Janet Paul Peters and I'm representing the Tobago Coordinating Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Dear parents, guardians, caregivers, the Tobago Coordinating Committee for Persons with Disabilities recognizes that you have been abruptly thrown into a situation where you are expected to perform tasks of teaching in addition to your normal hectic routines. We commend your efforts thus far, bearing in mind that you have been the first and most influential teachers in the lives of your children. We applaud the job you did then, and we are confident that you will continue to do a great job. That is why we are here to lend support to you. To do this, we will proceed to share some tips with you.
Hello, my name is Leeanna Alexander, and today we will discuss a visual schedule. A visual schedule is a child-friendly version of the day's routine. It tells us our wake-up time, when we get dressed, time when we can have breakfast, brush our teeth, make our beds, and even when we do activities and have lunch or snack. Yes, parents. So we are going to look at what is a visual schedule. So a visual schedule is a daily schedule or routine for individuals or students. So you actually can see how the day is going to unfold. It's a series of activity or steps to complete a given task. So it tells you this is where you are, this is what is coming next. It's a line of pictures, objects, or words that tells the day's events. So you would have a picture depicting reading. You would have the task card depicting the word reading, and you would also have objects for some students who may be visually impaired. So you may have a little book, or if it is that the child is doing blocks or free play, you may have a block, or if it is the child needs to draw or color, you may have a crayon. So you can also do a visual schedule with objects. It's a powerful tool for keeping your child organized. Now, time is abstract, so you may say, we are going to do this at 8 o'clock or we are going to have snack at 10 o'clock. But for the child, it means that something has to be happening at that time. So it takes away from being abstract and add to a more physical, visual event that you can see. So it's a reminder. So the child is reminded throughout different times of the day on what they need to do, what they need to complete. It gives clear expectation to the student. So if it is that the visual schedule tells us at 10 o'clock, we are going to be doing mathematics. At 10 o'clock, that is what we are going to be doing. So the expectations are there and the child knows this, and the parents would have already put things in place to support the child. It tells what the child is doing. So you wouldn't say to the child, go and feed the dog at 10 o'clock when you know the child is doing work. it also tells what comes next. Now, children need to know what is happening. We may think that they do not need to know, and we may just be telling them do this or do that, but when they know, they can, the mindset is fixed to do what needs to be done. And it also tells when the work has been completed. Now, for visual schedules, we can also have chores, and you can also have family time and other things that the child enjoys doing. Now, there are many types of visual schedule, but for today, we are just going to look at maybe 4 simple ones that you parents can do at home. So at first, we have a written schedule. And when we say written, we have some elements of visual because we have the time. So we have a clock here. And we also have the digital time. So the student may not be able to read analog, but they are able to see it's 9:30, we have group activity. Or let me say lunch. Lunch is at 11:30. So it tells what is happening, and you don't necessarily have like a picture, but there's still elements of visual with the time and the words. We have a schedule that you can check off. And this one, basically, we would use it for persons with ADHD, persons with autism. All right, so you would have your morning routine. Because for students with autism, for students with ADHD, even those with learning disability, they may not remember what I need to do or when I need to do it. So the routine is very important. So you have your wake up, feed and water the dog. And children have chores to do. Make the bed, brush your teeth. Now sometimes we are looking at this and you are thinking, it's so rigorous. But for students with disabilities, especially persons with autism and ADHD, we need to have a structure for them. They need to have that structure. They need that predictability when the day starts. So when the activity has been completed, you can check it off. So it means that at the end of the day, everything has been checked off and your day is completed. We have here the first then board. And this is basically like a mini version of your visual schedule. So normally you would have this maybe in a notebook or just like a little card. And you have first and then. Now you would use this for students with extreme behavior issues. Okay, so you may have something that the child doesn't want to do. So like morning work. They would prefer to do something else like maybe playing. But you have a non-preferred activity, so it's more like a reward system. You do your morning work first, and then you can do puppets. Or you do your morning work, and then you can go to play. So it gives the child a reward to work for. And it helps, as I said, to assist parents in doing what needs to be done to get the day going. Now this is, I have pocket chart here. Now parents, you may not have a pocket chart at home, right? Teachers may not have a pocket chart as well. And with a visual schedule, you need to identify a place where that schedule is going to be. And let me just pause here for a moment to say that when you have in your setting, so it's not school, it's at home, you would have a selected area where the child goes to do their work daily. So you're not going to have them on the bed today, on the couch tomorrow, then they're sitting out in the porch the next day. What we're going to do, we're going to look at an area. It could be a space on the dining room table, a preferred chair, or a comfortable area where you would have all their things, their books, papers, and pens so that they can focus. So you are basically, essentially, you are actually creating a learning area within your home. So the visual schedule should be where the child can see it. So you can maybe put it on the fridge. If the dining room table is next to the fridge or the area that they can see, you put it where they can see it. All right, so you may not have your pocket chart, but you may have a door or a wall. So you can have a chart and you can put all the areas. So you would have the picture of the breakfast. You would have the word, which we call a task card breakfast. The time is very little. You can have time here where they can see the time for each area. When it is completed, you have a clothespin or something that you use to indicate that that activity would have been completed. Why use a visual schedule? Now parents, you may ask your question, why do I need to use a visual schedule? But you are now the child's teacher. And yes, you would have been doing a great job all along, but now we need a little more structure, a little more routine in the day. So sometimes they may go to bed and they get up late. So when the child gets up at say maybe 7 or 8, work does not start until 9 or 10. But with the visual schedule, you are actually able to predict the day. All right, so we have, it assists children to understand and manage daily events in their life. Now, we would want to know that our children can manage their day because we are preparing them for the future, right? With and without disabilities, you have to be able to manage your day. So it helps them to understand that they can manage what happens in their lives. It also gives structure to the day. So it tells how the day is going to unfold, the different steps, the different things that needs to be done to ensure that our day is productive. So let's look here. So we have, okay parents, so now we are going to look at the benefits of a visual schedule. And we are going to look at how it helps the child or how it helps children. So it develops structure, right? The child is able to have a routine by doing the same thing over and over. So you know you have to get up, you have to go to the bathroom, you need to get ready, you need to get ready for 9 o'clock. It develops that structure or that routine that keeps the day going well. Right, it keeps the child organized. So when the child is organized, you as the parent, you are also organized because then you are working from home. Sometimes you may have a Zoom meeting or the child has to go to Google Classroom and then there are other siblings at home. So it is organized. So it's better as the day unfolds for the child. It conveys a message quickly. So you have a picture that tells the child, I need to be doing table work at this time. The task card says table work. The time says table work time. So you need to be doing it at that time. Right? It also helps the child to read. So some students may have issues with reading or challenges. So the child may have characteristics of dyslexia, or even for students with autism, they are better able to communicate with a visual as opposed to the abstract word, right? So it helps the child with reading. So they are able to associate the word breakfast with the picture breakfast, and they are also able to associate the task, meaning I need to go and eat at this time, all right? So it helps with learning sight words. So you have words like to, words like when these words are not phonetically correct. So when they look at it, sometimes you hear the child saying the word and you say, but I didn't know that child could read that word. So it helps with sight words. Also, the child is able to use skills in a variety of ways. And some of the skills that you would notice would be being able to tell time. So they are able to associate the clock hands with this time and the task that they have to do. They are able to sequence. I do this now, I do this later. In the morning, this is what I do. After lunch, I get to play. You have first, you have then, you have before, you have after. So it's so many skills that the child would be learning. And then they themselves would be able to assist you by doing what they are supposed to do. It increases academic learning. So you may say to your child over and over, because sometimes as parents we tend to say the same thing over and over again, and you wonder, is this child hearing me? All right, so with the visual schedule is there to do the talking for you. As I said before, it takes away the power struggle that some parents are faced with now. So the time that you have to be on task, you are there doing that specific activity. You are there doing what you are supposed to do. So it means that you will have more time to do your work, and it also means that you would see improvement, or there would be increase in academic learning. Develops patience and persistence. So the child needs to be patient, and that is something that most children, they want something and they want it now. So yes, they know I have my work to do, but I don't really want to do it now. So they are there trying to do the math, but then they would get up, they would go to the fridge, open the fridge, they look at the fridge, they come back and sit down. They would get up, see what's showing on the TV. But it tells them that if I'm patient and I can sit for half an hour and complete my work, then I can get my TV time, and my TV time may be a whole hour. And it also tells us that by doing this over and over, the child now is able to have extended attention time. So your attention span may be 10 minutes. But by the end of the week, from sitting and doing the work, you may see that they're doing it for 12 minutes and then 15. So gradually, the child attention span will also improve. So let's look at support. Predictability. It tells the child what is happening. The child is able to predict. So they're feeling like, if I'm more in charge of my day. Mommy doesn't have to tell me what to do. I do not need for someone to tell me this. And it helps that child in many, many different ways. Right? Independence. Now, when we have children who are independent learners, it helps us, the parents. Because if most of the time you are spent repeating and saying, go and do your lessons. It is time to read. Why aren't you going to the bathroom? It is time to bathe. Most of your energy is spent during the day in just redirecting and talking to the child, and nothing is being done. And parents, I know that you would have been experiencing this, because as parents ourselves, we are experiencing it. So when we look at the independence and the child would gain, they can look at the schedule without interrupting your Zoom meeting. So they can look and say, okay, it's now 9 o'clock, so I need to do this. When it's 10 o'clock, I can go to the refrigerator and get my snack. So it kind of takes the burden off you, and the child now is independent to make some decisions. Transition. So they can move from one activity to the next because it's there in visual, right? It develops their self-esteem. Children feel good about themselves when they can do well. And you know what, parents, sometimes they may slip up a little, but continue to praise them, continue to celebrate them. Because remember, we are in this thing together. They would have lost their friends, they need to socialize, and they are in the home. So it's a lot for them as it is for you. So you can help them to develop that self-esteem and do what they need to do to get the day going. Autonomy, self-governance, responsibility, all these are character traits that will be developed in your child when they are using that visual schedule. Control. As I said before, the control. So you are not there telling them what to do all the time. They are able to control some of the behaviors. They are able to control how the day unfolds. So it helps a lot in this area. Appropriate behavior. Now, for some students with disabilities, the behaviors varies. Some days they have good days, some days it's not so good. Even for students without disabilities, sometimes you get up, you are not feeling well, you have a headache, and the behavior is not the best. However, because my schedule tells me today we are going to swim in, after I finish my work, I'm going to push and do what I have to do so that I can complete my work. It increases on-task behavior. So time on task means that at a certain time, this is what needs to be done. And it means that when this time comes, that is what you should be doing as a child. All right, parents? So when the child has a set time to do something, they are able to complete that task and move on to the next event, or I should say the next thing on the visual schedule. Okay, so now this is our final slide, and we are going to look at how to create a visual schedule. And this is really an exciting time for me, because parents, I'm going to show you how easy it is for you to do this and get your day going. All right? So the first thing we need to do is to select an appropriate place for the schedule. So we would have spoken before, where am I going to put it? On the fridge, on the wall? Am I going to put it on the door? Am I going to put it somewhere that only the child can see it? And remember, it is a visual schedule for the child. Okay? So you select that place. You're not going to put it in the bedroom, because remember, the schedule needs to be where the work is being done. Source and laminate pictures for the activity. So I have here pictures of these that have already been laminated and pre-cut. Right? So now you may say, we are in COVID times. We are in COVID times. Where am I going to get a printer? I don't have any ink. There are so many questions in your head, and we want to do this visual schedule. You can use photographs of the child. All right, so you may have photos of your child, with the child maybe eating at a birthday party, playing, swimming, doing something. You can use those pictures. You can also draw, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. You could just have a stick child or a stick boy sitting down by a bowl eating something. All right? You can also print or type the words. So this is what we call a task card. Each task card would have been printed. So I type it, and then I would have printed it off and laminated. So you may not be able to do that, but if you cannot, you can simply write it on a strip of paper. All right, any strip of paper would work. And then you would source objects. That is if you need objects. That's optional. Now, depending on the ability of your child, you would select the best option. So I'm going to briefly take a moment to show you how easy it is to put our visual schedule together. Okay, parents, so today we are going to be looking at creating a visual schedule. So the first thing you would do would be to source and laminate pictures of the different activities that the child will be doing on a given day. So your activities would vary based on what the child has to do. You would also type or write task cards of each activity. So if we have breakfast, you would have the word breakfast. So it would associate, the child would associate the word breakfast with the picture breakfast. Now you may not have a laminator and you may not have a printer. What you can do, you can source pictures from old magazines or even from places like Subway, KFC. You can get nice pictures for the food, and you can look for activities through your magazines, and you can cut them out, place them in a small plastic bag or any piece of plastic, and you can have that to use. You can also take this and you can also glue it or pin it, right? So we all have clothespins. You can pin it, and I will show you how that can be done. So after you would have source and laminate your pictures, you would get your Velcro strips. Now for the Velcro, you have two parts, right? And you can get this at any hardware store or any fabric store. So you have two parts. You have a smooth part and a rough part. And Velcro simply means that one part is basically velvet and the other part is like a nylon little hook. So you have to remember when you are doing your Velcro that if you have the smooth part here, you're going to have the rough part on top. And we need to be careful. So you wouldn't want to have the same thing and then when you put it, it doesn't stick. All right, so we need to be careful with that. Apart from that, you can also take a marker and do. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is. So you may not be able to print or cut out, but you can do a little drawing, right? So you can maybe draw a plate with some food. You can draw your glass. And this would be your lunch. Now you can do it on small. You can do it on small, on a small card. And you can use your glue and you can stick it. Right, so these are just little ways that we can get our visual schedule going. Now you may not be able to have a space where you can put it. We have smaller ones that you can type or write out and use them. So this would be like a desk schedule, but it's still the same day's event, right where the child can have it in their books or in their folders, but it's there. And then we also have our first then board, which I would have spoken about previously, where you have it. It's just like this. So you can maybe draw a square on a normal 8.5 by 11. You have first and then you have then. So the preferred activity would be to play, right? But the activity that the child would not really want to do may be reading. So you read first and then you play. So it gives them a sense of assurance that if I read, then I can get to play. So it's like a reward for doing, because sometimes we have to reward some of our children. We need to have something in place to motivate them and get them to do the task. So you have this, and when you are finished, then you can do that. We can also, if you want to teach them to remember to wash hands, first you wash your hands, then you have your lunch. So it can be used for many different skills. All right, so we have the first then board here. So this is also another little way that we can do it. So we're going to get started. So we have daily schedule. So it tells that this is what the day is going to be like. So we have breakfast. And you have the task card and the word breakfast. We also have table work and reading. So I'm going to do table work this morning. It's going to be reading. So it could be comprehension, creative writing. So you have table work. Now let me just remind you that we have the time on the side here. And for the time, now sometimes you may not be able to put in the time. You can just write it in 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, or you can have an actual clock next to the schedule where the child can be able to see the time and know what time it is, right? So we have, these can change as well. So if a given day you would like to change your lunch time and maybe change it to 1 o'clock, you can do that, right? All of these can be removed and it's flexible, so even the child is able to do it for themselves, right? And it really takes all that stress off the parents. So our next activity for the day would be snack time. And children really look forward to snack, right? So the snack could be something simple. It could be juice, water, whatever. So you have snack time, a picture of the snack, and the task card or the word that says snack. So the child is able to identify the activity with the word and they can associate the task with it, right? And we have here art and craft and children love to do art and craft, you have your art here. And after that, it's lunchtime. Everybody loves to have lunch. So you have lunch, a visual of lunch, and you can have a nice pizza or a sandwich, whatever their favorite food is, and you have lunchtime. Right, and basically, we would have completed our visual schedule. Now, for persons who may not have all that space, we have some here. So we have water the plants, because you would also want to include chores on your visual schedule. All right, so you can water the plants, then you can play with blocks, then you can do some art and craft, then you can maybe watch a movie, and then you can have a treat, and you can also have family time. So you can make the schedule to suit your child's individual needs. So whatever it is that your child have to do when the day comes, you would have the pictures and you would also have the task card, and it could change. All right, so it's versatile, it could change so that the child would be able to do all that needs to be done, and it helps you, the parents. So you may not have the materials to create a visual schedule like the one just shown. What you can do, you can use your pictures or a photograph of the child, and you can use clothespins and a little clothesline or any piece of nylon, and you can pin the different things that the child needs to do on a given day. All right, and it's just like this. Now let me just share this quickly. So we have all these things here. How do you know that the activity would have been completed? So if it is that you have this on the line, when the activity has been completed, you could either remove it. All right, so you remove the activity and it tells that it would have been completed. For this here, you can also remove the pictures. So as soon as you have finished, you can remove it. And when everything is all done, your day would have been completed. Okay, so we have this here. And for this one, you can indicate using clothespins that the activity would have been completed. So you have breakfast, you have table work, you have snack time, then you go on to art, then we go on to lunch. So when the child looks, they are able to see all the things that they would have completed during the day, and it gives them a sense of accomplishment, a sense of fulfillment, and then they are eager and excited to see what's happening for the next day and to do the work that is set out for them, or to actually have some type of say with how the day would be for them. All right, so this is your glue gun. So you may not have a hot glue gun to do these. You can use the glue, but it will be a little more permanent, where you may have to just stick it on, or you can use your masking tape. Right, so with the masking tape, because not everyone will have a glue stick, this is easily done, and you can stick it like that. Right, so all these things would help in ensuring that you have the visual schedule for your child. So parents, as we wrap up our visual schedule, I would just like to, share some additional information as to where you can get resources to create your very own. So we have here internet sites to visit, and there's a lovely site, wikiclipart.com, and it's free. So you can go on this site, and all the pictures that I would have just utilized for the visual schedule, I would have got it there. Right, I would have gotten it there. So you have those, you print them off, you laminate them, or if you do not have a laminator, you can just print it and use this as is. But you would put it on maybe pre-cut Bristol board or a hard, piece of Bristol board. And schedule power. Now this is there's a cost to this, because you can, as a parent with a child with special needs or characteristics of special needs, you would want to look at power schedule, because there's a lot of information there for parents that helps you to schedule your day, but there's a registration fee, right? So we may not want to look at this, but we can certainly look at this one. And as I would have said before, the visual schedule is for the child. It is their day, their routine, and it helps them to keep their day structured. It also helps them to be responsible and to be independent, and it also helps you as the parent, you know, not to be talking as much as you normally would. And it also helps in terms of balancing your day. So it gives you that balance when your child is able to do what they have to do and you can still do something while they are doing their work. And remember, we can also add in chores, right? Because we are looking at lifelong learning. So we're going to have chores, you're going to have family time, you can have whatever, TV time, but you have to ensure that most of the work for the student would be done in the morning. All right, so between 9 and 12, and we're not going to be looking at a whole day. You know, sometimes we have these classes and you go from 8 to 2. But on average, the child would need approximately maybe 3 hours, but you have to break it into smaller steps, and that is why you would need your visual schedule so that the child would not be frustrated, or you know, they would not want to rebel or have inappropriate behavior, but that they would be willing to cooperate, because as we would have said before, we all have a plan, and when you know the plan, you know what to do. So, parents, thanks for viewing. Remember to wash your hands, practice social distancing, and be safe. Thank you.